So today we're going to be talking about Calvin Klein Eternity for Men EDP, the brand new release, which is obviously a follow-up to Eternity for Men Eau de Toilette. So you guys know Eternity EDT for Men. This fragrance has been out since 1990, so it's been around. This was probably a lot of people's signature scent back in the day, and probably is a fragrance that a lot of people still do wear even today. So it's really cool to see Calvin Klein put out an EDP version, and we're going to check this out. I'm going to tell you what it's all about, how it compares to the original Eau de Toilette, which is a classic scent. So I'm going to try to tell you if it holds up and if it's a good flanker to the OG. So a couple things before we get into the video. First, let me know down below in the comments what you think of these fragrances. If you like the EDT, if you really like the EDP, if you haven't tried the new EDP yet, let me know down below just kind of your thoughts on these if you have experience with them. Second thing is, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Also turn on the post notifications and give this video a like. Doing all that helps ensure that these videos are delivered directly to your phone so that you can watch them easily. Now let's go and jump right into the video. We're going to start off with the scent of CK Eternity Eau de Parfum. So what do I get when I first spray this on my skin? What I get right in the opening is lavender, a lot of cypress, some sage, and some geranium. And as soon as you spray this, you know what type of fragrance this is. You know what genre it fits in. It's an aromatic fougere fragrance for men, and it kind of gives you this like throwback feel. It just smells like this masculine, barbershop, mature type of fragrance. You obviously have the lavender note, which is going to be present in a fragrance like this. It is a fougere fragrance after all, which gives it a nice, slightly fresh, a little bit of a sweet touch, kind of an aromatic nature as well. And then you get a lot of cypress, which gives it a nice, somewhat sharp, woody tone. And then you also have some sage that kind of comes in, which gives it a little bit of a spicy kick, slightly like floral almost. And then there's also suede listed as a note. I think the suede and the sage is kind of giving this fragrance a slight sweet undertone, which I don't really get from the original Eternity Eau de Toilette. This fragrance has a little bit of a sweetness to it, and I really like that. For the most part, I really don't get any citrus in the opening of this fragrance, which you typically will get from kind of classic fragrances like this. A lot of times you'll get like a bergamot, grapefruit, just kind of a citrus type of opening, but I don't get that from this one. I do, however, get a citrus opening from the Eau de Toilette. This one opens up a bit more bright, a bit more fresh. The lavender overall is more fresh and aromatic, and there is a woodiness in this scent, but this one doesn't really go in a sweet direction like the EDP does. To me, this one is much more mature and barbershop smelling. So in my personal opinion, both the EDT and the EDP are masculine fragrances, 100% they're masculine scents, and both do have somewhat of a mature edge to them. However, I think the EDP, much more mature and really much more classic smelling. If I had to pick which one smells more like a barbershop type of fragrance, this one would have to be it by far. I really think it's the mix of the lavender, the cypress, even the geranium in this scent, which gives it that barbershop-y type of smell, that like shaving cream almost type of smell, kind of like what you get from Yves Saint Laurent Rive Gauche Pour Homme, which is a very popular barbershop scent. I kind of get some of those vibes, some of those feels from the EDP. I don't really get that as much from the Eau de Toilette version. The Eau de Toilette is a bit more bright, it's a bit more airy, it's just a little bit lighter overall, whereas the EDP, this one goes in a little bit more of a dark and woody direction, more mature as well. So kind of one way to look at this is if you were wearing this fragrance back when it first came out in the 90s and say you were like 20 years old, now basically 20 years later, you're now 40 years old, right? You're a little bit more mature, you've grown up. This is when this fragrance comes into play, and I honestly think that works out pretty good. This one, again, still is masculine, and still does have a mature edge to it, being that it is like a fougere type of fragrance, but this one really takes it up to the next level, and I think this one is 100% more mature. And if I had to tell you my personal favorite between the two, it's going to be the new Eau de Parfum. I absolutely love it. You guys know, if you've been a follower of the channel for a while now, I've been into aromatic fougere fragrances, And while they both do fit in that category, this one, in my personal opinion, does that better. So let's go and talk about when you can wear Eternity Eau de Parfum. This could be worn any time of the year for really any situation. 100% a signature scent, just the same as the Eau de Toilette. Don't really have to think too much about it. You don't have to worry too much about it. If you're looking to pick up a signature fragrance, something that you can wear anytime, for any situation, and it's just going to work for everything, this is one of those fragrances that will 100% do the trick for you. So that's really a plus side there. You don't have to, this isn't a fragrance that you're going to have to stash away and only wear on certain occasions because it's like kind of hard to pull off. This is going to work for anything. Going to school, going to work, going out on a date, going casually grocery shopping or something. This is going to work great for any situation, so you don't really have to worry about it. And again, it's going to be the same with the Eau de Toilette. So both of them are very versatile. I will say this one is a little bit more sweet, a little bit more woody. This one, in my personal opinion, has more depth to it. So I think this one is going to work better in the fall and winter time. It's going to hold up a little bit more. And the performance is also better, which we'll get to now. Performance on the EDP is really solid on my skin. Longevity, I'm talking about 8 or so hours on my skin. Projection kind of stays within my personal bubble. It will push out a little bit, especially if you have just a little bit of heat on it, but for the most part, it does stay relatively close to my skin. The Eau de Toilette is a little bit lighter. Longevity on this one on me is about 6 hours or so. Projection does tend to push out a little bit more when I first spray it on, probably being that this one is an Eau de Toilette, and lower concentrations will typically project more but last not quite as long. So I do find that because of the concentration of this, and also because of the citrus type of vibe that it, and also because of the citrus top notes that you have, this one pops off my skin just a little bit more. It just doesn't last as long. Whereas with the EDP, keep flipping these bottles around the wrong way, there we go. With the EDP, sits just a little bit closer to my skin, nothing too crazy, nothing too bad, but it does last longer. So it's kind of a trade-off, and that's typically what you're going to get with an EDT versus an EDP. So performance is better with the Eau de Parfum in my personal opinion. I would take more longevity over better projection any day. If I want better projection, I could just spray it on more if I want to, but I really don't need good projection to be able to smell myself, and that's really kind of what I'm after at the end of the day, wearing a fragrance that I can personally enjoy myself. I don't need it to fill up a room to do that. So I'm perfectly happy with the performance of the EDP here. Really, really solid. So let's go and talk about the compliments on CK Eternity Eau de Parfum. So as you guys know, I did a first impressions video where I tried it on paper. And when my girlfriend got home, I grabbed a new tester strip. I sprayed it on. I had her smell this, and she hated it right off the first spray. So on paper, this one can be harsh. It can be a bit weird. She kind of said it had this like pickle type of smell and some other odd ways to describe it. So yeah, on paper, you're going to be careful. I had her try the Eau de Toilette on paper, and she loved that one instantly. Now, I'm not really too sure which one she likes better now that I'm wearing them on skin. I do think she enjoys both, and after this one did dry down on paper, I had her smell it again. I didn't tell her which one it was. She smelled it and she said she liked it. So that opening on paper was a bit harsh and a bit weird to her, but after it dried down, she liked it. But again, that's just on paper. Like I always recommend you guys to try these on your skin. That's what matters. Your skin is what's going to help the fragrance develop, and both of these smell much, much better on skin. And I find that to be the case, especially with these aromatic fougere type of fragrances. I had the same situation with Yves Saint Laurent Rive Gauche Pour Homme. I tried that one on paper for the first time, and I really didn't like it at all. I was really disappointed. It wasn't until I tried it on skin, a few minutes later, that I fell in love with it and I was blown away. So it's going to be the same thing here with this one, and even really with the Eau de Toilette. Definitely try them on paper. I would say, especially though with the EDP, this one is a little bit more harsh, a little bit more strong in the opening. So make sure you give this one a spray on your hand and test it out. But overall, compliments on both of these are going to be solid. Again, these are fragrances that are a bit more classic. They are very masculine and somewhat traditional scents, kind of in that barbershop category. So it's not going to necessarily be suited for the younger crowd. If you want fragrances like that, Calvin Klein has a ton of other young smelling fragrances that are going to suit that better. Like if you're someone going to high school, probably wouldn't recommend you go with these unless you like the scents, then go for it. But if you're after getting compliments and getting noticed in like high school and even college, there's going to be other fragrances you're going to want to look for, not only from Calvin Klein themselves, but just other fragrances in general. Like I always mention, if you're after compliments and stuff like that in school, check out a number of the blue fragrances. Really, any of them will do. Dior Sauvage, Prada Carbon, Acqua Atlantique, those types of fragrances. I did a video on my top 10 favorite blue fragrances, so you can check that video out if you want to pick one out for yourself. Go with one of those if you're a younger guy looking to get compliments, I would say, for the most part. But if you are a more mature guy, or you don't really care so much about getting noticed, getting feedback, you just want to wear a scent that you like, these fragrances are going to do you really well. And again, they are going to get you noticed. They do smell great. My girlfriend does love both of them, and she's my age. We're both 20, so it is going to work, but they're just not going to be in that same category as the mass-pleasing blue fragrances. But if you're like me and you don't really care about pleasing everyone at this point in your fragrance collecting hobby, these ones are going to do you really, really well. And if you're into fougere fragrances, like barbershop type fragrances, you're going to like these, especially this one. This one is really, really good. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this video up. My final thoughts on Calvin Klein Eternity Eau de Parfum, I really like it. Really impressed. Really, really solid release. You know, Calvin Klein is known for putting out a ton of fragrances. I mean, they have their whole CK summer line where they release a new summer fragrance every year. They've done a lot of like limited editions of, you know, the Eau de Toilette of Eternity. They just put out a lot of fragrances. So when I saw this initially, I'm like, oh great, it's another Calvin Klein. But this one is actually really solid, really well thought out, and definitely, in my opinion, an upgrade to the original Eau de Toilette. So if you're thinking about picking one of these up here in 2019, if you don't own either of these and you want to grab one, which one would I recommend you go for? Yeah, I would say 100% go for the EDP. That's just my personal opinion. That's my personal taste. The EDP may not be for everyone. It is, again, more mature, goes in more that barbershop type of direction. So if you're not into fragrances like that, but you do kind of want a hint of that, you know, something that is mature and classic, you could go with the EDT. This one is more bright, a little bit more fresh, maybe a little bit more wearable for a lot of you out there. But if you are into those classics, if you're into those aromatic fougere fragrances like Yves Saint Laurent Rive Gauche, Tom Ford Fougere d'Argent, and fragrances like that, kind of had a bit of a brain fart there, then this one I would say is going to be right up your alley, because it is 100% for me. This one is well-rounded, it's refined, and it really does have just a little bit of a modernized twist on it, being that it is a new release. So really, really great scent here. Really happy with this one overall. So guys, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. That is my thoughts on the new CK Eternity Eau de Parfum. Again, let me know down in the comments what you think of this new fragrance and what you think of the original Eau de Toilette. I love hearing from you guys and talking to you guys down below in the comments about this stuff, so make sure you leave your input on that. And that's going to do it. So as always, thank you for watching. Make sure you give this video a like and subscribe, and that's going to do it for me, guys. Have a great rest of your night. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.